I have been posting a lot of videos on einkorn recipes and how to use einkorn grain and einkorn flour, and today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit more about who can eat einkorn. I am not a doctor, and I am not trying to diagnose, I'm not trying to prescribe, and so I would encourage you to talk to your medical practitioner if you're trying to figure out if you can tolerate einkorn and you're not sure for some reason. Do your own research and definitely talk to your medical practitioner about it. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, I'd love to have you follow along with us. So, autoimmune disorders, celiac disease, gluten intolerance, eating gluten-free, eating grain-free. Where does this all fit in when it comes to einkorn? And who can actually eat einkorn safely and know that it is going to be beneficial for their body as opposed to hurting their body? So these are some questions that I've brought up for myself and questions that I hear from people quite a bit. And so I have laid out the research, and I want to share some good tips for you guys today on how to know whether it is safe for you depending on what type of health issues or special diets you have. In my family, we've struggled with things such as gluten intolerance. We have an autoimmune disorder. So I want to first start off with talking a little bit about how einkorn is constructed, because you go back thousands and thousands of years and wheat was not like it is today. Our modern wheat has changed quite a bit, especially over the last 50 or so years. You go back basically around where mankind was starting to hunt and forage for food, and they found that they were also growing einkorn, because I have done a lot of recipes from paleo books who have kind of talked about how you go back to the paleo diet and they didn't use any grains, and maybe for some people that was true. But when I look at the dates from when einkorn was actually being grown, it actually parallels with that beginning of mankind where they were hunting and they were just starting to switch over to grow food, and they were using grains. So einkorn is the original wheat. Einkorn has a little different structure as far as the chromosomes. Our modern day wheat has 42 chromosomes, whereas einkorn wheat only has 14. Einkorn is actually just one kernel that is covered by the hull, and so each individual kernel has to be hulled. In the last 50 years, they began to mass produce the wheat, and in some ways, you know, they thought, oh, this is great because we can feed so many people. There enough, they began to have some problems with digestion. So compared to modern day wheat, einkorn has 213% more lutein. It has 55% more riboflavin, and it has 76% more manganese. Did I pronounce that correctly? Manganese. That one's a hard one. In addition to this, it also contains about 50% less phytic acid. Now, phytic acid is what ends up binding the minerals so that we can't digest or we can't take in that nutrition in the modern day wheat. Have you ever noticed how you go to the store and you buy some bread, and they've added all of these vitamins to the bread? Have you ever wondered why that is, if the wheat is supposed to have vitamin? So when you are on a special diet for any sort of diseases or autoimmune disorders, whatever it is, you're looking to help your body in certain ways. You want to find things that are anti-inflammatory. You want to find things that will not react with your body depending on what the autoimmune disorder is. You want something that is going to be nutrient dense to give your body the nutrition it needs. You might want something that is cleansing. There's several different factors that go into what am I going to eat to try and help my body stay healthy. So I have gluten intolerance. Can I have einkorn? So the simple answer to that question is yes. So there is a D chromosome that is on the modern day wheat. And this chromosome happens to be the part of the wheat that people are intolerant to. That's the part that causes some kind of a reaction in them. Now, einkorn does not have this D chromosome. That is why people who have gluten intolerances can usually tolerate einkorn wheat just fine. For the most part, people have been able to tolerate the einkorn when they have not been able to tolerate gluten. So can I eat einkorn if I have an autoimmune disorder? Now, this is a tougher question to answer. Einkorn is a lot different than wheat, but, and that's the thing, is that there's a big but. Autoimmune disorders are always going to be a little bit different than each other. And so if you have one autoimmune disorder, you might be able to tolerate it and not have it spark reactions for your autoimmune disorder or flare-ups. I have heard of lots of people who have incorporated einkorn into their diets who have autoimmune disorders such as Hashimoto's, and they claim that they've done tests and it has not upped the numbers for their autoimmune disorder. It hasn't changed things for them, and so they've been able to tolerate it just fine. But that doesn't mean necessarily that everyone who has an autoimmune disorder should do this or will be able to tolerate the einkorn wheat. Like I said, einkorn is a very different structure of wheat, so your body might be able to tolerate it just fine, but it's just not a guarantee. My son has PANDAS, which is a pediatric neuropsychiatric autoimmune disorder. One of the foods for him that he has to avoid is wheat. I've decided for most of the time that we've known about this autoimmune disorder to go ahead and just keep him off of the wheat. And so he has mainly had a gluten-free diet. We have done a little bit of einkorn here and there. I've tested a little bit, and I honestly haven't noticed much of a reaction. But here's the thing, with his autoimmune disorder, we want him to fully recover from it, and we are trying to beat it. A lot of autoimmune disorders are something that you have to live with. A lot of autoimmune disorders also, when you flare up, you might end up in the hospital. With his, it's not like that. It causes more learning difficulty, behavioral issues, but he's not going to end up in the hospital. And so I'd really take into consideration, if you're wanting to try to incorporate einkorn into your diet and test it, you'd think about how serious your autoimmune disorder reactions are, how much you will flare up if something does go wrong. And definitely talk to, if you're using a functional medicine doctor or a naturopath, talk to someone who knows both the autoimmune disorder and has some research done on the einkorn. It's very important to kind of get an understanding of what is going on in your own body. And there is so much to learn out there on it. And I say that because not every one doctor will know it all. And so it's good to try and learn what you can, so that when you're talking with doctors about whatever autoimmune disorder you might have, that you have a piece of knowledge that maybe they don't grasp over here, and you can combine it with what they are trying to teach you about your health. The answer on that, right now, it is not recommended that people with autoimmune disorders who are sensitive to wheat incorporate einkorn. But like I said, there have been people who have successfully done it. So take it at that. What about celiac disease? Can people with celiac disease tolerate einkorn wheat? I would say with celiac disease, the basic answer for this would be no. And there is also another but with it. And that's because a lot of research has started happening with the einkorn grain, and people are beginning to realize how vastly different it is from our modern day wheat. And so I will put on some research down below in the information, and you can go and check out some of the articles there and see what studies have been done. But basically, a lot of the studies that have to do with einkorn and celiac disease say that einkorn does not cause the toxicity that normal modern day wheat causes for people. Now, it still does cause toxicity, and so they don't recommend that people with celiac disease have einkorn at this point, but they're trying to figure out what exactly einkorn does for people. They're seeing that it has so many anti-inflammatory benefits, it has so many nutritional benefits, and it basically can protect the body. It helps the gut, especially when used with sourdough. But they're just finding so much more out about it, and a lot of the studies are basically kind of leaving it at basically we need to do more research on this, because this is a new topic and a new opening that we never even knew might be a possibility, that people with celiac disease could actually have a wheat flour. I mean, that just seems very, very off what we've been taught about celiac disease. So once again, I am not going to recommend, I'm not trying to say people go out and have einkorn if you have celiac disease. I don't know that that is the wisest thing, but I do think that there is some really amazing information coming out on einkorn, and I'm excited to just wait for the studies to continue to come out, and them to, who knows, maybe someday there will be news that, hey, if you are able to, cleanse your body out enough that it will be able to take in einkorn in a better way, or who knows? We don't know that yet. But I'm just excited for what's to come. I'm excited that people are actually getting into learning more about einkorn. And as far as the gluten intolerance and autoimmune disorders and celiac disease, definitely yes, if you are intolerant to gluten, go for the einkorn, and know that it is going to provide way more nutrition for your body, and it will be more helpful for your gut, and it will be digested a lot easier than other flours. Before I leave, I also want to leave you with a couple ideas to help your body be able to take in the nutrition and digest even better if you're going to be eating the einkorn. And so the first one is to sprout the grain. If you haven't yet, check out my einkorn sprouting video. And sprouting grain does help unlock more nutrition. It does help make it more easily digestible. So definitely look into doing that. It sounds so hard, but it's really a simple process where you're just putting it in water and letting it sit. The hard part is learning to make yourself remember what is going on. I mean, you can set timers or do whatever, but it's really just one of those routines that you have to get your brain into to learn how to do. It's totally simple besides that. The second thing is to use sourdough starter. So when you use sourdough starter with your einkorn, it's like making what is already a wonderful, nutritious thing even more so. I will put some research down below on sourdough breads as well, and seeing how much more they unlock the ability to digest and to take in all the goodness for your body, and how much better it is for your gut. I mean, these are also things that I feel like they're just starting to come out with the research on. So anyways, that was a lot of information at once. So go back if you have questions on anything, and go back and look at it again. But I hope this has helped you and has answered some questions. Check with your provider, with your medical provider, if you are wanting to try to incorporate einkorn into your diet and you're not sure if it's a good idea. And also to find a provider that is familiar with the chemistry of einkorn, with its history, with the nutritional content and how it is put together, and has done a little bit of research. I think that's really important too, since einkorn is not very well known right now. If you have an autoimmune disorder and you have successfully incorporated einkorn, I would love to hear in the comments below. Like, if you are gluten intolerant and you've successfully incorporated in einkorn flour into your diet, then I would love to hear that in the comments below. Okay, well, thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you again soon. Pronounce that correctly. Manganese. That one's so hard. Manganese. Ha.